And I wanted to bring on someone who I've been following for a very long time, who I just greatly admire. He is the CEO of MAHA Action and MAHA Alliance. This is Del Bigtree, back on the show. Thank you for being here, Del.
Sarah, thank you for having me, and thank you for being courageous for all these years, pushing back against pharma, the most powerful lobby in this country. That's not easy to do, and you're one of the few that has stood in there, and look where we're at.
Yeah.
I mean, we did it. We've achieved what they thought was impossible.
I cannot believe it. I'm being serious when I say every day I wake up and I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe we are really here. If someone would have asked me 10 years ago, hey, do you think that Donald Trump in his second term will actually bring RFK Jr. in as the Secretary of HHS, I'd be like, you're nuts. You're seriously nuts. And yet here we are. And I'm really, really excited about the future. Del, I know that you worked very closely with RFK as his communications director for his campaign, and I listened to your speech after he was sworn in, and it's just loved it, by the way. But I want to get your thoughts first on just today. I read an article that, we of course had Donald Trump sign the executive order on withdrawing the United States from the WHO, the World Health Organization, and it directed the CDC to cease all communication and collaboration with the WHO. And so now, today, we find out that the CDC is defying Donald Trump's orders, seemingly. They said that they will, with the FDA, be taking part in a vaccine meeting with the World Health Organization this week to analyze global flu data with recommendations issued on the composition of vaccines for the next flu season. And I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on this latest from the CDC.
Well, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? You recognize now what, President Trump and what Robert Kennedy Jr. are up against. You really have a massive bureaucracy in there that's used to doing things the way that they do it. They are not concerned about the sovereignty of the United States of America. In fact, they're, if you look at the World Health Organization, this is, largely funded by China and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. These are global interests that have been really attacking our borders, almost directly. When you look at all the European nations that are having the same problems with their borders, this infiltration of, undocumented, people coming in, it's all of a part of a plan to sort of dilute the power and strength of each nation. And America still holds strong because we're the only ones that have this incredible Constitution and Bill of Rights. But right now, you're watching sort of the last grasp, that white-knuckled death grasp of this, totally corrupt, corporate-owned government holding on to relevance. I've said that with COVID. I mean, when you watch them push this vaccine that didn't work, that couldn't stop transmission, pushing non-science, which was 6 foot distancing, which Tony Fauci's now admitted for the Congress had no place in science, masks that we know the science doesn't exist, doesn't work. So all of this has been a part of an agenda. And what they'll scream is, oh, you're anti-science, when the truth is we're finally getting science. The flu shot doesn't work. In fact, multiple studies show that it raises your risk of infection, of upper respiratory infection, more than 4 times, about 4.4 times in a massive Japanese study. And let's be clear, this is the problem with vaccines. It's not flu that you end up being infected with, it's everything else. So it protects against the flu. So they say, what are you talking about? But you are more prone to RSV and norovirus and coronaviruses and everything else. This is the problem that Robert Kennedy Jr. wants to look at. We got to stop looking through a microscope and just having this tiny perspective of what we're doing, because so many of these things have, far-reaching side effects in our own body, in our own future, and all of it needs to be put on the table. Nobody is anti-vaccine. Nobody's anti-drug. We all have moments where we have surgeries. There's moments these things have their place. But if you can't look at the effects of all of these things combined together, including the chemicals in our food, the fluoride in our water, the pollution in our air, the glyphosate on our vegetables, the hormones and, things that are in our meats, All of these things need to be looked at because we are so sick, Sarah. We have the sickest nation in the industrialized world. It's the sickest generation of kids we've ever seen in America. 60% of us have a chronic illness, either a neurological disease or an autoimmune disease. That's up from 12.4% just in the 1980s when I was in high school. So that is the greatest decline in public health we've ever seen. And this CDC and FDA that are pushing back against President Trump's wishes right now are the ones that should be to blame. Everything that's making us sick has got to be an environmental toxin that they have approved in one way or another. They've approved the fluoride, they've approved the pesticides, they've approved the chemicals in our food, and it's all making us sick. And now they're saying, we're not going to budge, we're going to try and figure out what vaccines are going to make you healthier. You're making us sick. We're trying to survive this toxic, attack that's coming from our regulatory agencies. Thank God Robert Kennedy Jr. is there, but boy, does he have his work cut out for him.
Yeah, and that was going to be my question to you, Del, is that, you're seeing the CDC already saying, well, actually, we're going to do this anyway. And I would imagine that these agencies are still infested with these deep staters who really, really want to hang on for dear life, who I'm sure have conflicts of interest, who I'm sure oftentimes are financially profiting or otherwise off of being invested in the place where they are. And so does he have a plan for rooting out these people who plan on undermining whatever his directives are?
Yes, he does. But I mean, let's make this clear. There's no leadership in there right now. We have not, the Democrats are stalling and pushing down confirmation. We need the head of CDC, Dave Weldon, in there. We need Marty Makary to be the head of the FDA. We need Dr. Mehmet Oz to be confirmed for CMS. Right now, Bobby has no team. There's no leadership over these departments. So they're literally being run by the lobbies, by these special interest groups that have controlled the whole place. So how do you kick out the money changers when they're the only ones in the room right now? So what Bobby's trying to do is really got to get people confirmed. He's got to start building new teams inside of these places. So for all of us, I guess we've got to take a deep breath. It's not like there's going to be some deal with the World Health Organization we won't be able to undo. Sure. You know what Trump's interests are. You know that Bobby's going to support that. Right now, there's a tug of war going on, and it's really unfortunate that they're stalling this way, but we knew this was coming. Bobby knew it was difficult. This isn't a surprise for him, but we've got to start, demanding as citizens. We've got to start calling our representatives and say, I want these confirmations. I want a new health department. I want Robert Kennedy able to do the things that we voted for, that we voted for President Trump. We knew Bobby was with him. I want action, and I want it now. We as the people are what are bringing the power right now. I said very clearly to a bunch of reporters, throughout the election and confirmation period, I said, look, red dye number 3 is finally being taken out of our food after 10 years of knowing it was toxic, knowing it was causing cancer, it was an endocrine disruptor. Why did that take so long, and why is it happening now? It happened actually a couple of weeks before Bobby was even confirmed, but it was all about Bobby. And why was it about Bobby? Because it was about us. What was happening was the FDA and CDC now recognize that the entire United States citizenry is focused on them. It's asking the right questions. Why are there deadly chemicals in our food that in the same company, Kellogg's, is making a different product for the rest of the world? These are the questions that are driving pressure. So remember, Bobby's just one person. In many ways, he and President Trump represent what this country stands for, which is of, for, and by the people, not of, for, and by Robert Kennedy Jr. or by Donald Trump. They're trying to hand us the power. But if we just sit back on our Barca loungers waiting for these two guys to try and change the world, we're going to be waiting a long time. It's our pressure. We need to tell every one of our representatives, our senators, our congressmen, our state representatives, I am going to fire you if you do not start getting things moving the direction that I have voted for. They will listen. They care. They will bring the pressure. So that's what we have to do right now. We got to step up and become a part of this system again.
I totally agree. It's funny, Del, on the topic of red dye number 3, it was just so fascinating. I took kind of a dive into the history of, when it was removed from all products, not just, cosmetics like America did, and then kept it in the food for so long. But I was actually reading that I did a segment on this, that it was the maraschino cherry industry that lobbied to keep it in the foods because they had to make their cherries neon red, I guess, in order to sell them. And they were like, you can't ban it because we need this dye to make our cherries, glow in the dark red. And so that was what kept it in. And it's like, guys, if you don't think that this is happening in all of these other industries with all of these other foods, you're nuts. This is happening. And that's why part of the reason that I'm so excited that RFK is in there and planning on rooting this out. And so I just kind of want to go back to what his agenda is, because, we're talking about the food dye, we're talking about the fluoride, we're talking about any drug, not just vaccines. Let's talk about any drug that might be harming Americans. We should know about that. And so, you look at RFK, you call him Bobby, and I want to call him Bobby with you, but I don't know him. So, okay, all right. I have your permission to call him Bobby.
Yeah, he'll give me a call if he has a problem with it.
Good. So, you look at Bobby, looking at all of these things, and you have all of these lawmakers who are so scared of him looking into it. And it's like, guys, if you weren't cooking the books like you were in, that study that you uncovered, Del, with your documentary Vaxxed. If you guys weren't cooking the books on all of these studies, why are you scared about Bobby coming in and looking at all of these things again and looking at it from a place where he doesn't have a conflict of interest, a place where he doesn't have skin in the game? What are you so scared of? If all of these studies, if all of these experts who have kept us sick for so long are correct, what in the hell do you have to be scared of him coming in and maybe just confirming what you guys claim is the truth?
It's absolutely right, and it's something that I've been saying in a lot of the interviews lately. It's the scientific method. We have gotten confused on what science actually is. A safety trial is not a group of scientists setting out to prove that a product is safe. That is not how a safety trial works. A safety trial is a group of science trying to prove that the product is dangerous, to show that if you put it in certain scenarios, we can show you that it's dangerous. And if they fail at that attack, at proving it's dangerous, if they can't do it, now you have a safe product. Think about it. It's like a crash test, right? We don't go out and put balloons and bubbles and bubble wrap and soap and crash it into a bunch of styrofoam. We hit it the weirdest angles. We hit it with giant cement-filled trucks to try and see, can we find a weakness in this car? Can you imagine Ford saying, we really don't want to do any more crash tests because it's making our car look bad? That is what's happening with the vaccine program. You should want the most skeptical human being in the world attacking that product with everything they have, like Robert Kennedy Jr., saying, I think there's an angle here. I believe it may be causing some of these issues. Let me see if we can prove it. And if he makes that attempt and fails, he'll be the first one to say, hey, I hit that thing with everything I had, everything that I didn't see in any other studies, and it held up. We don't see vaccines causing autism. We don't see vaccines causing ADD, ADHD. I assure you, he would be the first one. I know this man. You've never met someone more honest in your life, more attached to science being done correctly. He just wants to see those hardcore studies that we deserve.
If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you know you do. Click here.